This video is going to look at perpendicular lines. Okay, so on this graph I have two lines drawn, and what you should be able to see is that they are at right angles to each other, and that is what perpendicular means. So the two lines cross at a right angle. Now what you have to understand is the characteristics of how the gradients differ between these two graphs, so that when we were asked to form an equation of a line that is perpendicular to another, we can understand that we can take one of the gradients and convert it into the perpendicular line that is basically at right angles to the other one. So the first thing to consider is this one here. Now this is the line of y equals 2x plus 1, and that is because, number one, if we look at the gradient of this line, remember that the gradient is the difference in y divided by the difference in x. So this is 2 divided by 1, which is a gradient of 2. The line crosses this y-axis at 1, so plus 1. So this is the equation of y equals 2x plus 1. Now the line that is perpendicular to this is sloping in the opposite direction, so it has a negative gradient. If lines slope in this direction, they are positive. If they slope in this direction, they are negative. And this time we have the difference in y being 1 and the difference in x being 2, so therefore it's 1 over 2 is the gradient, and it's sloping in the opposite direction, so it is negative. So this is y equals minus half x. Again, it's crossing this y-axis at 1, so it's plus 1. So that is the starting point. Now what we've got to consider when we take these two graphs and their equation is what it means to be perpendicular. So if we look at this, perpendicular lines have gradients that are the negative reciprocal of each other. Now you might be thinking, oh my goodness, what does that mean? Well, this was one of the lines, y equals 2x plus 1, and this was the other. Now we have a gradient of 2 and we have a gradient of minus a half. What the negative reciprocal it means is that we take the first gradient and we do the negative of it. So we take the gradient and we do the negative of it, and then we apply the reciprocal. Now the reciprocal means 1 divided by that number. So we take the 2 and we do 1 divided by 2, and it has to be the negative of this. So it's the negative of this, but it has to be 1 divided by it because it's the negative reciprocal of it. So we could basically take any gradients that we want. So for instance, if one of the gradients is 4, then the negative reciprocal of that is minus 1 over 4. If we take, for instance, the gradient minus 3, then we need the negative of that, which is positive, but it needs to be 1 over 3. And if we start with a fraction to start with, so for instance, if the gradient is 2/3, we need the negative of that, and we need to do basically 1 divided by it, which means that it basically just flips upside down. So they're actually quite easy to do the negative reciprocal, because you're basically just flipping them upside down. And similarly, if you start off with something like 1/4, then it flips upside down to be 4 over 1. Remember, negative reciprocal, so the sign changes, which 4 over 1 is just 4. So this is talking about the negative, how we go from one gradient to the other. So if we were given in an exam, for instance, a line, equation of a straight line, and we were asked for a line, so any line perpendicular to this one, So they haven't given us anything else specific like a coordinate or anything. They just want us to state a line that is perpendicular to this one. We would say y equals, then we need the negative reciprocal of 3. The negative reciprocal of 3 is obviously minus, and then we need 1 over 3 x, and then we can basically write whatever we want here, because we're asked for any line perpendicular to this, so we could put, again, plus 2 if we wanted to. So if they're asked for a line that's perpendicular to another one, we have to do the negative reciprocal, so the negative of it. So if it's positive, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it becomes positive. And we do 1 divided by that number. It gives us the perpendicular gradient.